Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us here at Beautiful Literature with me, Teacher Martha. I am so glad that you could join us. And today we are looking at chapter 6 of the Fathers of Nation. If you haven't been able to access the other videos all the way from chapter 1 to chapter 5, you are welcome to have a look at them, and so that you can be able to have a follow-up when we are looking at chapter 6. And so in chapter 5, we spent a little bit of time talking about Dr. Kolabi, and we hoped we were able to see how his life progressed, and we're in touch with how he even ended up with being the guide for Path Alpha and for Abda, and how Mr. Longway talked to him, and he was able to just come on board. And so therefore we are in chapter 6 now, and in chapter 6 we are presented by a different character, and this character is part of the main story. And it begins with taking us to the Banjul, where the event is supposed to be happening. And actually the author is keen to tell us about the weather, and some of these things are never just for the sake of it. When talking about the weather, it says that the weather was very, the weather was not interesting at all. It was the weather was, there was a lot of heat and humidity so high as to cast a spell on all the events to come. Then they added sweat, which put a damper on each event when it came. So talking about the environment and the weather is actually just a precursor of what to expect. What are we going to expect? Because the weather was not warm and interesting and very nice, and the flowers, but we are told how the weather was. It was humid, it was hot, it was uncomfortable. And so actually that is just how the events of that day will come around. And so we come across various when they're going into the meeting, and we come across Comrade Melusi. And Comrade Melusi is from Zimbabwe, as we had said earlier. And he is going through the line for the security check so that he can get into the building. And we realize that he's having a small problem with the security, with the young man at the security, because he has some needles with him in his luggage, and that needle is not allowed. But he's insisting, therefore his diabetes. Actually, it says it is for my diabetes. He actually accepted it and owned it and said it's for my diabetes. And so they have a very bad exchange, where finally the young man threatens that I will call the guards to come and take you away. And he does not budge. Melusi does not budge. He says, actually, it's your call. Still, you are forcing me to climb up the steep mountain of risk here. It ends in blindness, in kidney failure, in foot ulcers, in leg amputation, and many other bad things like that. And I think at that point is when this young man looked at Comrade Melusi. And remember, he's old. He's around 70 years. He's not a young person. And so I think the young man looked at this old man, and the way he's describing the things that may happen to him if he doesn't go with his needles, I think maybe he realized there's no need for it. And again, Comrade Melusi was also very firm. We are told actually on page 84, he says, I'll do no such thing if I have to wait here until the cows come home. So he was ready to wait until he's allowed to go in. And so out of that gives us the beginning of the chapter 6 with Comrade Melusi. But we also are being given a background information about Comrade Melusi, because we have not met him and we have not understood exactly what he does and what he does not do. And so we realize that he's one of the aggrieved people in Zimbabwe, and he's not happy at all. He's not happy about the many things that are going on there. And he says, actually, he gives the political. Mr. Longway is presented here as one person who can listen. Actually, he's a good listener. And he has given Comrade all the time to talk about his life. He has given him time to rant. He has given time to complain. He has given him time to do all the talking he can. In fact, he's willing to buy lunch and buy another one until this man is able to speak up what is going on in his mind. And I think for me, that makes me feel like Mr. Longway is careful to make sure that the people that he's bringing up, of course, as much as they're picking on the people who are aggrieved and who have been through so much, at least they're getting time to be heard. And you remember he also did the same even with the others. And so when it comes to Melusi, I think Melusi, his issues were many, and he needed to just make sure that he listens to him. And so Melusi has so much to say about political issues that have been going on around him and how he was in politics. He also, in the campaigns, he was vying to be a president, and he wanted to win. And unfortunately, with his other competitors, they refused to come together, and everybody went on their own way, and they did not manage to win because they lost it. They lost the election. But this happens, that this takes place after already they've been able to take away the colonizer. After the colonizer goes, and now they have the transition government, and they're hoping now when they're getting into campaigns and electing a new president, Comrade Melusi, because he was very instrumental in all this that was going on before the elections, he was hoping that he can be able to win. But of course, he did not win for whatever reason. And we realized that he was not happy. He was not happy about it. And unfortunately, what happens after the loss is what hurts him more, because the leaders that he was working with, and the leaders that he was supporting, they ended up betraying him. They betrayed him, and they betrayed the people that were working around them. And actually, the political leadership was not able to separate issues on the issues of tribe and the individual persons. That the leader himself, he actually was against anybody who was not for his own tribe. And out of that, simply because he was from a different tribe, that is the Ndembele, and the leader was from the Shona, and the Shona tribe, he actually was therefore termed as an opponent. And of course, the leader took time to punish those people who are from different tribe. And of course, it's very painful. It was very, very painful for him, because he knows how much they had come, how far they had come with him, how much they had supported one another, how much he had walked around him, and so on. And so he expected that he does not behave like that. And so you realize that Comrade Melusi is one who is portrayed to be very bitter and very angry about the many things that are going on around the country, politically, economically, because even economically, even in the hotel that they have gone to, you realize that there are no people. There are no people who are coming. There are no patrons who have come to even to do anything, to drink anything, to eat anything there, because they can't afford it. In fact, he says that the only people who can be able to buy lunch there are the ones who have some money, and that is like the foreigners who will go to foot the bill. So we experience a man who is hurt and he's wounded politically, not just politically, but also at a family level, because we realize that Comrade Melusi lost his wife, and the way he lost the wife is through brutality, through killings. Now, you realize that Comrade Melusi is one very unhappy person. He's bitter, he's angry, and he's been through so much. He's been hurt many ways. He's been hurt politically. He's been betrayed politically. He's also been betrayed from his family perspective, because his wife was killed during an attack of the Ndembele people. And the way the wife was killed was in a very painful way. And it was actually just probably just to make him feel the pain and know that we've done that deliberately to punish you. And that is on page 91, that I would want to raise that up and say that on page 91, where he says that when he heard that the people in the village, people had been attacked, it was some time away, it was some distance away from his office. He says, I left my office at once and drove back home. But home was about 50 minutes drive away. So he was living far away from town. And we are told that that is where he went home. He rushed home. And when he got to the living room, he found things have been messed up. It's like someone had turned the place upside down. And then going inside the house is where he found the wife. And she had been strangled, and she lay there. And it was a very painful experience for him when he found his wife dead. And why is she dead? Because someone was out to punish him. And you realize that these Ndembele people suffered so much. But before that, there was a lot of animosity between them and the government, because the Ndembele people were very unhappy because of the betrayal that had happened. That they felt like this leader has come in, and our people, the people who are from our tribe, he has sidelined them. He has refused to appoint them in any political position. And so they all went into complaining and riots and all that. And so now, to hit back on those riots, what did the leader do? The leader decided to punish them, and going down to where they live and making sure that they mess them up. And so therefore you realize that there is so much brutality as far as Melusi is concerned. Even when you look at the other characters who are aggrieved, like for example, Professor Kimani, if you look at his pain, you cannot even compare it to the pain that Melusi had to go through. He has lost almost anything. He says that even the house, the office that he was able to, he had a business and a shop, we will be able to set up his office in town. He couldn't even afford that office anymore. He actually had to relocate and move to a place where we can afford the rent. He says that I had a business office in the downtown, but in the capital of the Ndembele, but he could not. He left his office at once, and he left his office and realized that he could not be able to afford rent there. And so because it was expensive, and so if people cannot even go to the hotels, they're not able to afford rent even to do their businesses. It means that even economically things are not okay. And so Mr. Longway is here trying to listen to this man and giving him time to talk and talk and talk. And from there we realize about Mr. Melusi's political ambitions, where he had the opposition party called the New Independent Independent Party, that is NIP, and where he ran for presidency, and he didn't gain a good following, and of course he lost. They lost actually, and it is very funny when they say that each party went alone by fielding its own presidential candidate, and they refused to come together. And they actually say that the only time they came together is after they lost. They came together for a few minutes to claim and to complain and say that actually there was rigging of the elections. Actually, they say that not so. We shouted together with one voice during that half hour. At least for that half hour, they worked together, because of course the elections, they were feeling like someone had rigged the elections and gotten into power without a fair play. And so politically things are not okay. Politically there's a lot of intimidation that is going on, but finally, even with all that, they still could not win. And just to finalize on that, you realize that there's so much that is not going on with the citizens of Zimbabwe, because the leader himself, he also went ahead to demolish all the slums that were there. And you know how slums hold so many people. These buildings that people may dismiss, they actually are the ones that have so many people. The common Mwananchi, most of them, there are a good number of them that live there. But they were all demolished, the slums. All the slums were demolished. They were calling that whole operation, they were calling it Murabatsivina, which is to mean to expel the chaff. The trash and every dirt, and so it's like a rain that carries away the dirt. And so whatever he was doing by demolishing and cleaning up all those things and removing all the slums from slum to slum, they actually considered it as that rain, the rain that takes away all that dirt, all that trash, and makes sure that everything is left. In fact, they say the reason why that happened is because they wanted to prevent disease and curb crime. Because in those slums, as they were saying, there are so many diseases that go on there, and there is a lot of crime that goes on there. And so by removing those slums, then therefore it means that the place has been left clean. But ideally, he says, that was not the intention. The intention had nothing to do with the crime or disease or anything. It was just to punish the urban poor for supporting the opposition parties. And so looking at all this, I hope you can get some time and look at it in details. You realize that Melusi portrays a very dark picture of Africa. Very painful. And remember, when you're talking about the father of nations, the title, we said that these leaders that we have are supposed to be fathers. They are supposed to be father figures, even to the citizens. But that is not the case, especially for Zimbabwe, is where we see a leader who has no regard for the people, has no regard for the poor, has no regard for the people who didn't support him, and actually does everything just actually to just punish, not even to benefit himself, but just to punish. And therefore, even as we talk about the satire, the irony of that title, the father of nations, in this case of Comrade Melusi, it comes out very strongly, because we don't see a leader, we see a leader who does not even recognize or even reward the people who has worked for him, who has worked with him. And so I want to stop it at that, and in chapter 6, and hoping that even as we carry on, even as we look at Comrade Melusi and the challenges he's been through, and even now that he's been offered, the last page of page 99 is where he's been presented after Comrade is given time to talk, all that by Mr. Longway. Then he presents to him the document of Path Alpha. He says, this document, it covers the subject I had to come to discuss with you, that is mobilizing our discontent with Africa in its present state into will to change it. And so after listening to him now, he can present his issue about Path Alpha. And of course he would, Melusi will be interested in handling something like that. And that's how Comrade Melusi ends up in the summit. Remember, in the summit now, he's already in the summit and insisting that he must move in with his needles. So that is it on chapter 6. I will see you in chapter 7, even as we look at what happens in chapter 7. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to subscribe and share it with your friends. Thank you.